Good evening and welcome to the Social Talks. I'm Gia Zengin and our topic of discussion tonight revolves around a pressing question. Should we boycott fashion companies using excessive Photoshop image editing? In recent years, the use of Photoshop and image editing software in advertising has come under intense scrutiny, particularly in the fashion industry. Critiques argue that these practices promote unrealistic beauty standards and contribute to body image issues among consumers, especially women and young girls. Tonight, we delve into this contentious issue, exploring both sides of the argument. But the question remains, should consumers take a stand against fashion companies that perpetuate unrealistic beauty standards through excess image editing? On one hand, supporters argue that these editing techniques are simply part of the artistic process, allowing for creative expression and the presentation of aspirational imagery. They claim that consumers are aware of these digital enhancements and appreciate the fantasy element of fashion advertising. However, on the other side, there's a growing movement that believes that these practices contribute to harmful beauty ideals, negatively impacting individual self-esteem and body image. Critiques argue that constant exposure to perfected images can lead to unrealistic expectations and a sense of inadequacy among consumers, particularly young people. With the rise of social media and constant bombardment of these images, the issue has become more prevalent than ever before. In fact, several fashion companies have recently faced backlash for their overuse of Photoshop. As a debate continues to unfold, it's evident that consumers are becoming more conscious of the images they're being presented with. The question remains, should we boycott fashion companies that use excessive Photoshop? And what impact could such boycott have on the industry? The debate intensified following decisions by advertising regulators to ban certain advertisements for their excessive use of Photoshop. The US National Advertising Division, NAD, for example, banned mascara advertisements by CoverGirl for what they deemed as excessive Photoshopping. So where do we go from here? How can we address the harmful effects of excessive Photoshop while still allowing for creative expression and artistic freedom? Increasing transparency and accountability in advertising practices could be a step in the right direction. By requiring advertisers to disclose when images have been digitally altered, consumers can then make a more informed choices about the media they consume. Ultimately, the issue of whether to boycott fashion companies using excessive Photoshop is complex and multifaceted, touching on issues of ethic, aesthetics, and social responsibility. As consumers, we have the power to shape the culture and the value of the industries we support. It's up to each of us to critically examine the messages we're being sold and to advocate for a media landscape that promotes positive body image and self-esteem for all. That's all the time we have for tonight. Thank you for joining us on the Social Talks. I'm Gia Zengin, and good night.